Okay, what a weird sound to start off the show. I am trying Spreaker.com. So welcome everyone. My name is Jennifer Tebow, and this is the Late Night Leader, the things that keep you up at night. I figured I would try a new format. I'm used to broadcasting on other mediums. Those places shall remain nameless to respect Spreaker.com because I'm using a free account. Yay for the free accounts. Can we get some applause for the free account? Yeah, just cut it off like that. See how that happens? I'm getting used to all of the tools, but I thought, while I do that, I might as well just have a little chat. I was about to actually record on some other forms of social media, and then I realized that Spreaker kind of feeds into YouTube and SoundCloud and all these other things. So why not start with the place that I can broadcast once and send it off to many? So Spreaker, you seem pretty cool so far. I just need to figure out your little tools because I just don't read. I don't pick up the manual. It's much more fun just to fumble around. The thing I wanted to talk about, Late Night Leader, lots of folks, it's a marketing shtick, a sales shtick to really say what keeps you up at night, but leaders do. Leaders tend to be up late at night or they get up super early, but the wee hours oftentimes are a leader's best time to be thinking and, doing all these fun, wonderful things. So I thought, okay, I pride myself on being a leader. I'm up at night. Maybe I should share what kind of keeps me up at night. What kind of comes to mind is performance and behavior. I know it's not, like the dirty, but it is the things that it's the dirty and the lowdown of what I think about at 3:19 in the morning, my time. And it's, what influences people's behavior or performance. Because if you figure that out, then you have an opportunity to apply something to the mix that really influences positive outcomes. So you have to know what influences performance or behavior so that you can then help to shape it, influence, guide it to the right place. That's what leaders do. That's what really good leaders do. There is a scholarly path that I'm going to introduce you to, Thomas F. Gilbert. Now, that's a person that most corporate organizations are not familiar with that name, but he is really the creator of the concepts of the BEM, no, not bowel movement, the behavioral engineering model. Now, it has engineering connected to it, mathematics connected to behavior, and it comes up with this formula. So I'm not going to share that. Not that I could really do that at 3:20 in the morning, but what it does, it kind of boils down social concepts into mathematics. So I'll talk about the social concepts. That's kind of what's more interesting at 3-something in the morning. Mr. Gilbert came up with this BEM, okay? So scholars commonly refer to it as Gilbert's B.E.M, BEM, Gilbert's Behavioral Engineering Model. And it says basically there are 6 areas that influence people, either to behave or to perform. And think about those areas in a box, okay? I want you to imagine a box, and there's 6 boxes. There's 3 across and 2 down, right? So across the rows are the top row is for individual and the bottom row represents the environment, right? So either the individual or environment. So basically the model says that half of how a person performs can be influenced by themselves, the individual, and the other half of how they're behaving or performing can be influenced by the environment. That's pretty simple, right? And then if you look at the columns, right, there are 3 columns if you had this little 6-box circumstance. So the columns are broken down into 3 categories. The first column is knowledge. Second column is ability, and the third column is motivation. So when you cross those all together, right, I'm going to cross them, it basically says for an individual, the things you can control yourself, an individual, they are influenced by the knowledge they know, by their own abilities, and then by their own motivation. That makes sense. That's pretty simple, right? And then the environment, very similar. The environment has the ability to shape a person's performance or their behavior by the knowledge that they provide, that the environment provides and gives to the person, by the ability that they create, and by the incentives or the motivation that they offer. Okay, so all 6 of those things really comprise the variety of elements that influences a person's behavior. Now, why do I point those out? Not to be super nerdy at this hour, but why do I point it out? Well, to be honest with you, I point it out because if you think about it, when we look at a person and they disappoint us and we say, wow, why did they do that? What really made them do this way? We always go to individual motivation. We say, they're a mean, evil person, right? We basically say that they chose to perform badly or behave badly. That's what we always do. When in fact, there are 6 areas that influences a person's behavior. Typically, it's never just one area. It's a combination of the two. It's a very, very tough concept to get because we are trained to say the reason a person doesn't do well is because they chose not to do well. We are inherently in society, especially in the United States, we are trained to believe that it is a motivation problem. Now, if we believe that the whole problem is motivation, then we start applying and over-applying interventions, solutions to address motivation. And sometimes we overkill, right? A person needs to have a greater desire. So I'm going to send them to a motivational conference and they're going to be better now. That's going to solve it, right? Or we're going to talk to them and inspire them. When in fact, it could be the person just does not have enough information to perform. It could be that they are unable to perform. Maybe it's beyond their level of expertise. And that has nothing to do with motivation. They want to get there, they just can't. Prime example, I'm 5 feet tall and a ½ inch if you want to be exact about it. But if part of my job was to put something on a high shelf that was 8 feet above the ground, and my environment did not give me a ladder, then I would be unable physically to perform the duties of my job. That has nothing to do with whether I wanted to put that thing on the top shelf or not. It had nothing to do with me not having enough information. It's just that the environment did not enable me to be able to do it. And I was physically, because I'm 5 feet tall as an individual, I'm unable to reach that top shelf. There are circumstances where motivation can be so strong that it kind of circumvents the other obstacles. But the reality is, if you want to put people in a good lane, in a good position to perform and to perform well, then you need to be looking at all of those 6 areas of influence. So bottom line, if we're talking about a corporation, the corporation has to do what they need to be doing. They have to do that in order to create the best outcome, the best possibility of the best outcome. And the second thing is that individual has to be accountable for their own success. They have to acknowledge and not wait for the environment. It's so common in an organization for an individual who maybe didn't receive a promotion to blame, well, I didn't know about it. Well, there's a certain part that is going to be on the individual. If you are missing information, you need to go seek the information. Let the company do their part, but you've got to do yours. What I love about those 6 boxes is that they're equal. One box is not larger than another. So there are equal opportunities to be able to influence behavior. And the greatest part is the individual has has 3 out of those 6 boxes. They have an opportunity to impact and to affect. So I just, when a leader is thinking about how do I help people perform better? How do I show them the way? It is a multi-level strategy, because you want the individual people in your organization to work on the individual 3 boxes, to work on bettering their knowledge, improving their ability, and strengthening their motivation. Now, you can, as an environment, you can create things that allow them to do that. But it doesn't mean that if you don't provide that they can't do it on their own. You're just going to make it harder for them. But you've got to put some of that accountability on the employee to be better every day themselves. It's very, very important. And that starts with culture, creating a culture of accountability and a culture of individuality. So often we have a tendency as leaders to create this one big, large ecosystem and not identifying, celebrating the individual parts of the ecosystem. And unfortunately, people get lost, right? And what gets lost is the measurement and the metric of individual performance and its place in the larger ecosystem. And so celebrating and encouraging the individual success of the knowledge, ability, and motivation from an organization standpoint gives you an opportunity to do your job very well as an organization, as an environment, to be able to find the right tools to spark that employee. Just because you think a person's performing badly, you can't just train them to death, okay? That's terrible, but lots of organizations do that. You've got to really look at what's the influencer here for this individual or this team or department. And you've got to identify and apply that recipe that identifies the boxes where they're needed. Maybe the environment needs to offer more education to improve the knowledge. But maybe on the individual side, there needs to be a dialogue so that the individual can seek and find out the information that they need to know. There's just really this great recipe that needs to happen to create the best outcomes. The best leaders know that. The best leaders create the real recipe. It's kind of like going to a fast food restaurant versus a small little boutique restaurant. The boutique restaurant, they're making their own recipes. There's no standard or franchise, and they focus very much on the pride of each of their products. The franchise goes for quantity and consistency, and because of that, they focus on doing things the same way, certain way, to have a certain quality. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. It's two different strategies. But what gets lost in a franchise circumstance, imagine if you were at a hamburger place that had thousands of franchises all across the country or the world, and you're an individual employee that has this great idea for a new, hamburger, a new hot dog, whatever it is. Well, because of the nature of how it is, that, more than likely that individual may not be able to get their idea out, which may have an impact on their own personal motivation and their desire to really be innovative in the organization, all because of how it is potentially structured, all because of how it's structured. So the structure and the culture really do give you an indicator for where your company is going to grow. And you've got to be able to foster growth within that structure. It can't be so stringent that you're just really asking people to do the same thing every day, all day, over time, because you're going to continue to get the same thing, and your competitors will pass you up. They'll be able to master exactly what you do because you're doing it the same every time, and they'll be able to do it better. So you don't want that. To remain competitive, you've got to allow that structure of growth, and that's going to be to look at those 6 boxes, those 6 areas of influence. That was the idea really kicked off around 1978 with Thomas F. Gilbert coming up with the behavioral engineering model. But it's an idea that, if embraced and applied properly, just can have huge results for an organization. And it really will make you look like a genius and make you, as a leader, look to be, you'll make it look easy. And that's a good thing. It doesn't need to be complex. It just needs to be well thought out. That's what it needs to happen. It needs to have a purposeful leader. And that's kind of the things that have kept me up tonight. So hopefully you've enjoyed it. We'll see how this recording turns out, and see if this is a platform I would like to continue. Thanks for listening. I appreciate you. This has been the Parts of My Late Night Leader Mind. I'll see you guys soon.